Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Site Club and from the Tom Numbers Show. I have two YouTubes, so we're on the Tom Numbers Show, and I've got Jetson White with us. That's a great radio, a great radio graphic there, Juan. I've got Rachel WriteSide Blonde, and I've got 107. And Mark Atwood may be joining us. Kathy, Mrs. Handy, you was going to, but she's tied up, but she'll join in the future. So I have a question for you, Juan. Yesterday,
Sure.
President Trump made an announcement, and he said there's a major announcement, and he said it looked like it was going to be from Trump Tower by the graphics, but he said America needs a superhero. And I looked at that, and that obviously caught my attention because I'm always talking about superheroes and films and Trump cards and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, today he announced what that was, and it's a series of Trump cards, which are special NFTs. But some numbers that caught my attention on it yesterday is when he said America's 50, which is Donald. It's Fight, it's Paul, it's Eileen for my personal numbers. But then needs is 47, which is Rachel, which is John. Add them together, it's 97, which is Kennedy's, which is crypto. And then a superhero. Superhero is 125, which is John Kennedy, Dark to Light. But a superhero is 126. And 126 is John Connor, Sarah Connor, Chinese elders, and 107. And so America needs a superhero. And then President Trump announced this beautiful collection of NFT Trump cards, which are available for people to get if they want to. And they're at $99 because 99 is Patriot. So yeah. I want to be giving you a shout out, Juan. I might have done this before, but I was definitely reminded of yesterday. A superhero, 126.
Well, and there's a couple different games going on here. Every time, people might be a little underwhelmed by such an announcement. They're waiting for, some intergalactic, space alien intervention to change everything that's happening and going to happen and blah, blah, blah. And so this is like underwhelming to many people. I know that folks there in Florida that I talked with were, they had all sorts of high expectations, and then they felt like this got, wasn't what they thought it might be. One of the things Trump's doing, he's trolling the shit out of the bad guys. They don't know what to expect next. And there's a certain, cry wolf, cry wolf, cry wolf. So, for example, when he announced he was running and people were expecting all sorts of things beyond just he was running, he even seemed a little bit underwhelming there also. And I've used the example before. There's every game is about gamesmanship. How do you snooker the other guy into believing one thing when you're about to do something else? That's what games are all about, is fooling the other guy into a deception to, think you're going this way and you're going that way. And Namath in the NFL was famous for, he damaged his knees. He had some back issues and things like that. So the way he would snooker the other side, he'd feint these injuries like that. Some of them were pretty real injuries, but he'd have enough reserve that at certain critical moments when they were certain he was done, the game's over, he doesn't have anything left in him, and he'd come out and pull one out of nowhere and throw a pass, monstrously downstream or whatever. And he was very good at gaming and snookering and fooling his opponent, even in bridge with the trump card. This is about getting the other party to play their cards, get them in just the right position where they're still holding a handful of lots of, expensive cards to hold, and then bam, playing your trump card and putting an end to the game. The trump card in card playing is also known as the matador, the killer. It kills the game. And so Trump is trolling the other side very effectively. And all of these little things, and then it's a valid announcement. He's having fun. He said a superhero. I had no idea personally what it was going to be. I said, I don't know, Musk, as though, Musk was somehow saving the day for us or something like that. And don't interpret that as me dropping my guard on Musk. I have concerns there, but the stuff coming out over at Twitter is amazing and important and valuable and useful and aiding in a lot of the legal work that we're doing. So, but I'm not dropping the guard. So Trump is playing a game, and this was part of that game.
Very cool. The other thing with NFTs is NFTs 40, it's US, it's RV, but NFTs just with the S without an apostrophe is 59 Joker. So again, when you were talking about the Trump card in the various games, it was making me think, maybe he's playing as Trump card, it's Joker card. Very cool.
Well, the Joker card is not just a Joker, it's a wild card. And in this case, it's not a Joker. It's the wild card. The wild card can be any card in the deck that helps you in the game. The wild card at this exact moment in time is no Joker. It is the Brunson brothers and their suit, which the Supreme Court has now agreed to go to conference on and consider the writ of certiorari to then place it to be heard by the 9 justices. And so that's a pretty wild card. And here these guys are trumpeteers. Mm-hmm. So that's their history. And the Supreme Court actually sought out their case. The clerk to hurry up and get it to the court. They only, hear about 150 to 200 cases a year, 250 in a big year. And so the Supreme Court, there's 5,000 to 8,000 cases that people want the court to hear every year. Only listen to, 1 to 250 cases a year. That's a very tiny number. And this case is now at a place where it can be heard. Now, Tor Mars, she's got 2 cases that are also being heard on January 6th. And that's a big deal. And hers are very interesting, compelling cases too. So the court actually has 3 cases related to election issues that are coming up. But the one that they actually kind of went out of their way to get to themselves, make sure it was at least available to them, is this Brunson case. And that's really got the potential as a wild card. They come in and it collapses this whole house of cards over at the House. And you remove 2/3 of the members of the House and Senate in one fell swoop. And plus Biden and Harris and Pence. Collapse the whole house of cards. Now you got to bring in new players and start the game over again without not just a couple here or there, but a massive, so many people get reelected nowadays that, the Soviet Politburo has more turnover than the U.S. Congress does. And it's an insider's game, an elite game. So flipping it like this from the court side, the 4 Brunson brothers as the wild card. Well, what card does a wild card want to be? It wants to be the Trump card. So now you've got a full, a straight flush of the same, card and same suite of cards. So long and short of it is that that's the highest hand you could have as a straight flush, same suit. And that's what you would have here if the Brunson brothers prevail, and then Trump comes in and puts the death blow to the deep state. So that would come through military interaction, by the way.
You said there one. You said there one about the orchestra sorry, not the orchestra. You said the wild card. The wild card comes to 107, comes to trumps, and you talked about the boys being the men being trumpeters, but orchestra also comes to 107, which is quantum and military. So I thought that was interesting, and currency. One before we segue, I've got just one question. So there's a few orders that we know about that have been set in place by President Trump in regards to confiscating financial assets, seizing of bank accounts and other assets, etc., for people that have been involved in treason and human trafficking. Does that go on to lawyers that have been helping set up the trust funds for these people, even if they weren't aware of it?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I sort of cut that, but I want to listen to it again to make sure I answer it correctly. So ask me that one more time.
Yeah. So the President Trump set up some orders, executive orders that will basically seize the property, the assets, bank accounts, etc., the finances of those that have been involved in treasonous acts such as human trafficking and other things.
Well, human trafficking is not. That's what I was trying to hear. What you said. No, criminal activity involving
crimes against
trafficking
humanity
of humans or children, or crimes against humanity. Those are, actually a slightly different crime than a treason. Treason's against the nation in a different way, but these are crimes against humanity, and then seizing the assets of any person or group that's been involved in human trafficking of any type.
So we know that a lot of the top tier players in the world, the majority of them have been at some level, not everybody, but a large percentage have been. So would legal teams, lawyers that have set up to hide those funds, that wealth away in such as things like trust law, would they be compromised as well? Even if they didn't know, would they have their assets seized? But if they did, then obviously they're more culpable. But if anybody that's helped facilitate that, and if their name's on any of the paper chain, would they be seized as well? Would they have their assets taken, even if they didn't know what they were doing?
Well, I think again, it'd be a case by case basis. How innocent were they? It's like the mob attorney. How innocent is the mob attorney when he's, who he's defending? Does he actually know who he's defending and what the cases are that he's involved in? And you can play footsie with the court, and some courts put up with it, and other courts won't. So, that's I have a case right now in a particular state where the judge has got to make a decision by tomorrow morning, and his decision, he's in a tough position. He's got to go back retroactively, I think 4 months, and reverse a decision he made 4 months ago to protect himself, because the things that he's done in the interim, if he doesn't flip that back then he's literally put himself in a collusive position with the prosecution. And the judge is supposed to be the referee. If he's favoring one side, then there's all sorts of issues come up with judicial misconduct. And this particular judge is kind of cornered because of things that occurred. He's getting a gift to decide to go backwards, but that's going to open up the state and prosecution and other people to other kinds of problems. So he's kind of in a catch-22. And which way is he going to jump? Protect himself? Or is he going to sacrifice himself to save a whole bunch of other people that probably could care less about him? I expect now that he's got this opportunity, he's going to go back in time. The reality is that if there is issues of human trafficking, other crimes against humanity that come up, many of the attorneys will actually be given an option to find legal reasons why the attorney-client privilege doesn't stand, and may become the very ones that disclose information about their clients' activities, because to not do so puts them in legal peril. And the attorneys are pretty smart, just like this judge is pretty smart. I don't expect him to make a stupid move now that he's fully aware of exactly what's transpired. He was sort of conned, but he sort of wanted to err on the side of the players that usually win, and all of a sudden they're not going to win. So is he going to be self-preserving? I think absolutely. And I think in these types of cases, you'll have just exactly that. The judge or the attorneys will make a self-preserving choice, push comes to shove, and they'll probably get that opportunity because it makes everything easier for them. They may very well have been technically ignorant, but at some squishy level, they kind of knew who they were representing, what was going on. And, it's a Better Call Saul situation.
Yeah, Better Call Saul. Would that mean then, if they knew, and it's kind of a bit wishy-washy, like you said, a catch-22, so would they be in the, I guess it depends obviously by case, but would it be, perhaps if they didn't play ball, if they didn't do a deal and give names and participate and help, would they'd face the maximum charge, which could be death? But if they're somewhere in between and they help, would it be that they would just have their assets or the money that they've earned through those transactions having to be returned? Their money?
It's a case-by-case basis. I think it's too generic of a question to actually give an answer to, because there's so many variables, and every situation is just too different. I don't think you can give an answer on it.
Okay. Rachel, Jetson.
I got to go here in like 5 minutes, so I'll ask my question really quick. I was curious, is that January 6th date? Did the Supreme Court, were they already like set to meet that day, or was that was just a coincidence, or was that set up on purpose?
No, they usually take and do conference on Fridays, and this is a Friday. So It is interesting that is the date. It's fun, but I think more telling even than that date is the fact that the court did reach out through the clerk of the Supreme Court, and the clerk was, extra involved in procuring the case, making sure that it was brought as quickly as possible, and did express on a couple of occasions the urgency of expediting their efforts to get the case into the court's hands. So it may very well be that while this is a lame duck Congress, which happens in even years right after elections, it may well be that while they expedited it to get it to them, it's a hurry up and wait situation. And as long as Congress and the administration don't do anything too extreme, then they aren't either. They will plod along. They could keep this case active for them for many, many months. In fact, they could even decide against it during the conference, and they would know full well that this is going to be brought back on appeal. It's not over even if they decide not to take the case at this time. In fact, that's part of the reason why in the letter campaign, we're asking everybody to throw a buck in their envelope to the Brunsons. Why? Because, and I misstated something. I said that they'd already spent $2 million on the case thus far. That's what attorneys told them would have cost to get to this point, projected. I have other attorneys that say it'd be much more expensive than that. But at the very least, that dollar that is thrown in the envelope to the Bronsons, and then another envelope to the Supreme Court asking them to take the case and to find favorably for the Bronsons on this, that dollar would give them ammunition if they have, let's say the Supreme Court on the 6th says, yes, we're taking the case and we're going to actually set a hearing, which they don't have to set a hearing, but they could. for both sides' attorneys to come and explain their position. Now, the defense didn't offer defense. They passed on saying anything defensive. So that might be a reason why you wouldn't have a hearing. But the justices could choose to have a hearing. If that's the case, just because as pro se litigants, the brothers were able to get this case to the Supreme Court doesn't mean that they're prepared to do a presentation to the court in an open hearing, in which case they really should have co-counsel. They should have a attorney, practicing attorneys that go in and actually do a live courtroom presentation, trial attorneys. That's a whole different breed of animal. And then attorneys that go present before the Supreme Court, that's another breed again. So a proper, appropriate presentation to the Supreme Court probably means we need to hire a big gun that's actually proficient, skilled, has a history of doing this type of presentation. They need to get prepared for it like that. And that will cost serious money. So, for anybody that thinks that just throwing $1 in the envelope to help the brothers out, look, they've set 2 years of their life aside, other business they could do, other things profitably. Nobody's grifting. Nobody's, cutting a fat hog on $1 in the envelope. And that money will be used if and as needed to offset the expenses of preparing to make a presentation to court, or if needed, an appeal. And then because they got it to this point, what you do to get yourself in the game is not the same as what you do to stay in the game or stay in business. I've said that many times. And it may be more appropriate, having gotten to this point, to now bring in some truly qualified individuals to help take it to the next level. It's a very important case. And if there's a war chest there, all the better. The one thing I would say is that that's a minor side of this. The real issue here is that the court knows that the American people, really even the world, you can be anywhere in the world and you're affected by the outcome of that election in 2020. And Trump wouldn't have us on the verge of nuclear war in Ukraine. And a lot of the mischief going on over the money laundering through FTX and Tether to political campaigns around the world, not just here in the US, is a result of this administration, the Biden administration, being put into office. So the question is, if you have the chance to flip that and go back to what it was supposed to be, there's only here in the US, within the Electoral College, it was only 70,000 votes difference between Biden being president and Trump being president. And we're seeing more and more and more information that the numbers were thrown off by, hundreds of thousands to millions, not just a few tens of thousands. So the court is aware of that, aware of cases coming up through the ranks. And this would be a short stop to save America and the world a lot of grief with a lot of these other peripheral cases by just knocking down the whole house of cards and starting over.
Thanks,
Hey, I
Juan.
like that full sunroof. That's a full-length sunroof. I like those. Those are very fun. Yeah, I had one of my 600s had that full what they call it, a sky roof or whatever. I loved that in the removable hardtop. So that was kind of a fun car.
Well, you guys have a good rest of your meeting. I gotta take off, but I'll see you
Why?
next time.
Why? You're leaving us. Why?
I'll be on the next one, and then you'll give me my 2 jackets that you owe me for interrupting my presentation one.
Oh,
well, that means
gosh,
I'm owed 3 jackets.
And you got a warm jacket.
Because I was
there.
the
You must
first to
be
be
someplace
interrupted.
cold. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little snowy here in Iowa. I don't know if you can see out my window.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd
it's
get
like
the heck out of Dodge there, man. I'd head south, man. I was actually supposed to be at Mar-a-Lago the last 2 days, but I had emergencies out west. We had emergency court stuff and like that, so I came out to kind of be in the background on that. So I wish I was in the sunshine, but whatever.
It's better than Iowa, though. So, yep.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Rachel.
Iowa might be the wild card. Wild is at 48, Iowa. So there you go. Juan, I just want to say thank you. I got the catch when you said catch 22. 22 is 165, so catch 165. And also when you said Better Call Saul, that's 151. Drain the Swamp. So I got the message. Thanks.
Well, it's a palindrome 51, which is 3 times the magic, which is 17.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why the most
151.
magical, mystical base in the military's system is Area 51, 3 times 17, the Osiris number. That's the number that Washington, D.C. is built around with the Washington Monument, which is the penis of Osiris and all that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Jetson.
Yes. Shalom, Juan.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. I've got a quick update for you on the Kid by the Side of the Road audio book project.
Yes.
All right. Going to read it so I can just get it out. It took a while to find voice talents who were willing to be involved with the content, but this summer, 3 patriots came forward who volunteered their time and talent. And thanks to them, all the recording has been completed for chapters 1 through 3. And that's all we're going to
that's
do.
very cool.
Thank you. And I've been, if I may give those 3 patriots a quick public acknowledgement. They are voice talents. Ellen Papa, who did all of chapter 1, a chap named Patriot Underground, who you might have heard of. He did chapter 2, and Robert Chandler did chapter 3. And all of them are extremely honored to be associated with this book, Juan. And I'm releasing it in 15-minute increments via my Rumble channel. And chapter 2, part 4 just posted today. And I'll have chapter 2 out done, in the next 2 weeks, because I'm releasing 1 a week. And then what I do when I get them all released in these 15-minute increments, I put them all together into one. So the chapter 1's already out there in 6 parts, plus it's all together in 1. Chapter 2 will soon be ready all together as 1, and then chapter 3 will begin releasing.
That's very beautiful. I appreciate everybody's efforts there, and I hope that people really do get some enjoyment out of it. And it trying to help people to put this moment in history into a context. I don't think it's wasted time, and so I'm feel very it's quite something to get to enjoy, that you have something out there that maybe helps people to think again and understand this moment in history more clearly.
Right, like you say, it's not over yet, so it's not too late to get the truth out from those books.
2020, it's not over yet.
Yes. I did the gems on that. They're really good. Now, I've got one more thing. I've got a question,
Yes.
Juan. There's a curiosity on the back cover of both editions, 1 and 2, the one with Trump on the back and the one with the Melania. It's a pre-printed postmark with 11/4/2020, and it also says Savin Hill, Boston. So one day I decided to map the location of the JFK Presidential Library, and I noticed that this area of Boston not only has a Savin Hill, but a Savin Road, a Savin Park, a Savin Yacht Club, a Savin Beach, etc. So I'm curious why Savin Hill is printed on your book. Could it be connected with your name choice?
Well, someday I'll talk more about some of that. There's a particular history there that we'll save that for a rainy day out in the future, but it's a lot of fun. And it's not as happenstance as, might otherwise be thought at different times.
I feel like I'm on What's My Life. Could it be connected to your childhood?
No, actually not. Not connected to my childhood, no.
Okay. Flip the card over. I didn't get that one. Now I've got one more thing to point out in the book area. I know you're releasing a new book, The Storm, is coming out. And should you decide you'd like it professionally recorded, I know some patriots who would be honored to help out.
Well, it's going to be, it's shortly. I had to delay because we had a paper issue and then a printing issue, and I did end up making a change. We did set a date for the print in mid-January, and it'll take about a week and a half to print and then bind. And so somewhere in that zone, that's when it'll be out. And I've got some obligations for just that first 1,100 books, and then the rest will go out after that. So it'll be a very fun period. I may, in fact, do that one myself. So we'll see.
Great,
but love to. We'll see how it breaks. I have a super tight schedule over the next month and a half, and then the 4th edition, actually, I'm hoping to have ready by late spring, because that's actually more important. Even the Storm edition will be a very limited print, and the 4th edition is actually going to be really much more important, much larger, and because that's how do we build our way back out of this and do what we have to do to get America back on track. So, that's where it's at.
I wouldn't be alone in saying we prefer that you recorded it, of course.
Oh no, part of the reason that it's fun to have somebody else read this stuff is the pacing, the intonations. Everybody's a little bit different, and I actually get a lot of satisfaction. I hear things differently when somebody else does it, because I've written quite a large number of articles under a couple of pen names over the years. And when I hear other people read the material, it's even fun for me to hear it again and in somebody else's voice. I enjoy it tremendously. So, I think, actually even the book is 4 interviews that I did with people several years ago that were put to print. So at some level, it is there somewhere in my voice, pretty close to exactly what was printed in the book. So just as a history, so hearing it through other people and with their skills, very fun.
Yes. Now, Tom, I've got a question for Juan that you might be interested in. It has to do with Tesla. Could I ask that question?
Yeah, go on, buddy. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. Juan, you've mentioned on Tom's show that you've been known to attend Tesla events. So do you have any anecdotes about Tesla events you've attended?
Well, I've spoken at a few, and there's something there that down the road somewhere I'll talk about that also, but not precisely, anytime soon. I don't plan on. But Tesla himself, one of the things people don't really actually realize, Tesla was a kind of a ladies' man, and he was a pretty handsome guy, tall, lean. He was actually in pretty good shape, and yet he, especially in his younger years, and of course successful in his own vein. And there were a number of very well-to-do socialite women that would have enjoyed to be Mrs. Tesla, including Morgan's daughter. And of course, Morgan's daughter really pushed hard when she ended up not getting him to marry her. Then that was part of the thing in the background where Dad, if he'd been part of the family, he might have been more manageable. But Tesla said something interesting. He said he didn't know of any married men who had ever, go name the married man who made some great invention that did something, amazing in the world of creative invention, design, etc. And the problem is that it's very hard to lead a married life with all the responsibilities and attachments like that, and then go through that creative phase. Tesla would stay awake for days at a time with only short naps here and there when he was in the creative phase. And part of the thing too that Tesla, not very many people know this, he would build something that he was building entirely in his mind. He would visualize, literally, he could, lean back on his couch, visualize every single part and piece, the size, the way that it would be put into play, how the energy or the air, whatever gas might be, what it would react like in a vacuum or in a charged environment. And he would go through in his mind exactly how it would function once he had completed building it entirely in his mind, and then working through, it would work because of this, it wouldn't work because of that, this would fail, this would be weak. After he had done the mental exercises of building it, designing it, building it completely inside of his mind, then he would put it to paper. And he was actually, Alexander Graham Bell was a contemporary. And he thought that Bell would waste tremendous time in building all sorts of variations of things that was a waste of energy, a waste of resources to build it, just to find out that it didn't work and why. When Tesla had enough technical expertise and understanding that virtually every time he built something, he built it to scale, and he built it exactly as he designed it on paper, which he had done in his mind and was only putting what he had in his mind on paper. And all of those inventions they didn't have virtually any trial and error. And that's why he could do so many inventions, is he didn't waste his time and his resources on things that didn't work, trial and error, because he was so precise in what he did in his mind. And he credited a divine inspiration, capability, God-mindedness, because he believed everything he was doing was for mankind, to help mankind out into the future. So when you look at what our modern society is, in large measure, a vast swath of things that we use today are extrapolations of things that Tesla brought to pass 100, 120, 130 years ago. And we're literally on the shoulders of this giant in our world today. Howard Hughes believed that Tesla was the greatest mind ever given to humanity. He looked forward every year on Tesla's birthday, July 10th. Howard Hughes treated it like Christmas. His mom started it with him when he was very young, and he would go to the newsstand waiting for all the publications talking about anything Tesla had released, because Tesla would give the world a birthday gift on his birthday. Instead of receiving gifts on his birthday, Tesla gave the world gifts on his birthday. And it is an interesting aside that Tesla was born on July 10th, 1856, and died, was murdered by many accounts on January 7th of 1943.
A 107 and a 17 or two 17s. Yes, indeed.
Well, yeah. And so, what a beautiful gift to humanity. Nikola Tesla, he advanced our world radically in the few short years that he was here. And there's other stuff going to looking at some of the technology that was uncovered around the world, including things from parts of the world most people haven't considered, that he was one of the consultants in understanding and back engineering some of that technology. So some of his understanding of where things were going was based on what was presented to him in uncovered technologies. And that's kind of a silent era of his life from the early 30s until he passed. So it's an amazing story.
Oh, wow. Tom, can I ask him another question?
Yeah, go on, Don.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, actually, this is just a thank you. It's not a question. Thank you for introducing me to Curry Blake of the Dominion Life, John G. Lake Ministries. I've been a certified divine healing technician for over a year, and I could literally fill a book with all the miracles I see daily because I'm applying what I'm learning. And we had a chat. I was hosting a Zoom class. My friend and I, Nancy, were hosting a Zoom class for the DHT. And we had a chap in there for a bit who said he saw you at one of Curry's DHT crash course weekends.
Yes. Yeah. Of Curry Blake, the reason that I actually enjoy the services that Curry has, the teaching sessions, he's not Elvis from the pulpit. So many of the people in ministry make it about the showmanship, the personality. It upstages almost this hand of God thing. And let me just qualify that. Their services, I was at a service several months ago at a I don't know, inner city church or whatever. The choir was amazing, and you heard amens all through the whole sermon. You had all sorts of expression amongst the people. In the New Testament, each of the churches had its own flavor. And so there was letters written to each of the churches, even in Revelation, John the Revelator. There was a message from Christ to each of the churches, who each had their own character, style, flavor. One's not wrong over the other, but I enjoyed the very demonstrative style of that inner city church. It was a fun service. I had a great time, and I enjoyed the enthusiasm and the interaction between the pulpit and the people. That was just very refreshing. In fact, there was another church I was out in North Carolina, Lay Valentine's Church, and that if you ever get a chance to go out to their church, oh my gosh, what an incredible service! What a beautiful way of presenting. Very unique to their church. The people are very colorful. They enjoy to dress for the occasion and come in their Sunday best. And the way that the men of the church and the women of the church interacted separately, and then the children, it was just unique in the country in its style. Curry Blake you're talking about what to a lot of people are magical things, healing, and I think as soon as you get into a lot of that stuff and demon possession and casting out demons, as soon as you get into a lot of that stuff, the personality of the persons and the power of the people, the minister can upstage what is actually an authority that we all have through the blood of Christ. And so his style is understated enough and detailed on the authorities in scripture. A small child understanding its authority within their position in Christ has the same authority as the most flamboyant minister who's been around for forever. So once you understand your authority within Christ, within the blood of Christ, it takes away the need. In fact, it discourages this level of flamboyance that distracts or detracts from that authority. Does that make sense to you? I mean, isn't that what you're saying too? It's that's why I love Curry. He's actually a little bit bland in some ways, but once you get used to him, his sense of humor is just it's killer.
Right. Oh yeah, I completely understand. And there is so much power. A small group and we're starting to tap into that power. We're creating our own ecclesia, our own ruling governmental councils, and we're seeing things that are happening. It's like we'll make a decree one a week, and then we'll look for the proofs of it, and they're out there. We are changing the world literally. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
One more, Tom.
Yeah, go on, Jetson.
I don't want to steal your show because I know you've been.
No, go on, buddy.
Well, and I do have another interview momentarily too, so I have to keep moving. But go ahead, one more question, and I'll.
All right. Now we know that you have designed a propulsion system for a space vehicle. Did that vehicle get put into production?
No.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll stop there. I feel like I'm on What's My Line?
Yeah. It's a bit more complex than even that. There's a way of, there's other physics involved and a way of accessing that. And so there's quite a few things, a lot of fun. That's really in my, people sometimes ask me, why am I doing this? And what's the point? Why am I doing all this? Because I look forward to getting stability back in the world so we can do what we're intended to do as a people, as a planet, and build out even off this world to go to the other places. And I look forward to that. And, I anticipate getting to be part of that as we bring the world, bring stability back in the world to work in. So I hope that children, young people in this audience, even right now, will get to enjoy this next stage. It's something to look forward to. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be challenging, exciting. And we have some work to do to get through this stage. But, we have an amazing future as a planet ahead of us. We have to go through this, get control of the technocracy, the machines, the people that would hand over our future to godless, heartless machine control. And we need to capture that back for us as humans. And the whole idea of transhumanistic um, uh, changes is not healthy, and having our human skills, our human body augmented by machine is, makes perfect sense. Doesn't mean it has to be an implant necessarily. We will be augmented with a technology, but we don't want the technology to own and control us, or a handful of people who own the choke point of technological capability to use that technology to steal and own the planet, to subject us to their machine world. And that's where they would like to take us, the devil himself. That's the beast, if you will. We have a hell of a fight ahead of us. We have a fight for the political. We have a fight for the economic. We have a fight for the soul of humanity. I can tell you that we will win it. God himself will not be mocked. His creation is his creation. He will protect it and have his way. The devil isn't going to win, but we have a hell of a fight ahead of us. And we have to make those choices, because God gave the earth and everything in it to Adam and his seed. We are that seed of Adam. It's our planet. We're taking it back in the name of Jesus by the blood of Christ. The second Adam has restored us to right relationship with God. It's our planet. We're not giving it up. That's the way it is. The devil be damned.
Yes. Praise God.
Juan, just before you go, you talked about the blood of Christ. See, that comes around Easter, but we've got Christmas coming up. I just wondered if you could give a brief message of Christmas and hope to the listeners, because President Trump has been, well, he said a few years ago, so we're going to have a great Christmas. We wonder, will it be this Christmas? Will Christmas be every day as we go into this new age? Just some thoughts, concluding thoughts on Christmas and the festive time, and to look forward to the future.
Well, remember, Christmas as celebrated today is actually the season of misrule. It's a Saturnist Roman festival, went back even before that. It's the winter solstice. From a biblical scriptural standpoint, it has nothing to do with Christianity as it's celebrated today. In fact, the early American citizens, the pilgrims that came over, would have nothing to do with the trees, with the ornaments, with Santa, an acronym, creation of Santa, etc., or Satan. And it was the early church seeking to blend holidays, because it was such a popular holiday in Rome, to shift people over into a church holiday with all that branding. And then it continued to evolve. Even the Santa thing really didn't get hyper popular until the very late 1800s, early 1900s, with Fifth Avenue advertising and polish. So this is not, the birth of Christ was 9/11, September 11th, 3 BC. And that's why it had to be vilified with the 9/11 action. And then in the astrology overhead during the exact period when the buildings were blown up, not hit by aircraft, and then collapsed, only steel frame buildings on the planet 3 times to collapse ever. The Virgo above was birthing virtually with a star through the birth canal. So the reality is that Christmas, as it's celebrated today, is not a season that I personally celebrate in that way. It is Hanukkah, which is the festival of lights. And interesting thing, when you do fertilization of eggs for artificial insemination, whether it be in animals or humans, the way that they pick which eggs to inseminate is they put them in a dish that has little compartments, and they photograph it with very high speed cameras. And when the egg is fertilized by the sperm, it flashes, and the most powerful flash is the strongest egg and sperm combination. And so they will pick the strongest flash, and those are the ones that are used for insemination. And it's literally a flash of light. It's amazing moment at the moment that we would call conception has occurred. So Hanukkah with the season of lights is actually a very interesting moment, because when you go 9 months forward in the birth cycle, you're at 9/11. With that in mind, celebrating a Hanukkah makes much more sense to me than this pagan celebration based on the Saturnus festival, which is about the king of misrule. And I will try to read an article I did a few years ago on this, explaining what this festival was all about in the Roman times. But I've got to go. Don't forget your letters, please, everybody. There's a number of videos out there. One letter to the Supreme Court, asking them to look at the Brunson case and rule favorably. One letter to the Brunson brothers, and throw $1 in there, because then we know how many letters went to the Supreme Court. We're not going to get an exact answer from the Supreme Court anytime soon. So that way we can track how many letters we're getting there. It's very important. We would like the court to feel the wind beneath their wings. They want this case. They're under attack because of the decision on Roe versus Wade, choosing life. And that's why this court is under attack. This case is their Mexican standoff to hold Congress and the administration at bay, and if need be, and I think that they've already decided that this is a stronger possibility than most people realize, may reset or shortstop a lot of the dramas ahead that we will go through this next year if we don't get this solved right now. So love y'all. Appreciate everybody. Thanks for a few minutes with you there, Tom, and I've got a blast.
Shalom.
Thanks, Juan. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Jetson.
Right. Thanks,
I got the 3. Yeah, when you said about the 51-3, and then 351 is catch 22, and got a cool soul.
Well, 351 is another thing too. Of course, that's the both the Cleveland and the other Ford motor. I can't think of the name of it. Windsor motor 351, because it is actually a number that has a very significant meaning in their system. So anyway, love y'all guys. Appreciate it. Look forward to the next show.
Thanks, Juan. And where should people go to? We'll put Jennifer's link up. Is that good?
thejennifermack.com. And she has those amazing jackets, the all-around print jackets with the Negador on there, and the canvases. There's a metal print, some of the other art. People just really love, because I signed the canvases with the Megador, and I think it's going to be one of those touchstones out into time that people will remember this exact moment as things get flipped around. And then she has my book over there also at gumroad.com, the All Patriots section there with my book. We had the international turned off for quite a while. We're about to turn that back on, so people will be able to get the book other places in the world. But we did have it turned off. I spent a tremendous amount of money and just covered all the postage going out around the world. There'll be a higher charge for the postage there, but I spent well into 6 figures letting the book go all over the world with no additional charge for the mailing. So we'll have that back on here, possibly even yet tonight, for people outside the U.S. And I appreciate everybody out there that has gotten it, and hope they enjoy it. And there you go.
Thanks, Juan. We'll do that. And in closing, you talked about wildcard. Wildcard is 74 gematria. So I thought that was cool. What
74 verse 47, which is also the number of DC. It's the Euclid's number, unsolvable number that got solved. It's a lot of things. So it's a lot of fun to get into some of that.
Yes, it is. And 351 is all the letters and numbers added up. So A is 1, B is 2, all the way through.
Yep.
And that comes to God communicates your number. So it's a pleasure. And Jetson, people can find you at your YouTube. I'll put that up. And then make sure you subscribe to Jetson and to the Tom Number Show and to Site Club, both on YouTube and all the Rumble and Telegram and Twitter and everything else. Thanks, Jetson. Thank you, Juan. God bless you. And we'll see both of you very soon.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, buddy.